All right. So, welcome to our podcast. Yeah. So, if you don't know me, I'm Lebby. This is my friend Elmer.
Howdy.
We're This is our first episode of our podcast. We're going to be reviewing game movies. So today we're doing Silent Hill. So we're going to talk a little bit about the game and about the movie and our thoughts and everything like that. But we're still a little bit of a work in progress. So uh, there's some more production coming to make this a little bit better looking for you all. But um, yeah, let's see.
So in a way, we should.
So
Sorry, I was
oh
gonna
yeah,
say,
go
one
ahead.
thing we should probably talk about is just kind of our credentials behind this.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows Lebby here. He's probably one of the biggest video game nerds I've ever met, or sorry, aficionados of video games I know. Which, no, if I ever had a question for him about, oh, who did this? What game was that? Where did this music come from? I've always asked him, talked to him about that, and he seems to know pretty quickly what anything like that is.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a collector and stuff like that. And Barry, he actually went to Tom Savini School for Special Effects, so he knows the movie side of stuff pretty well. He's like I don't know, like the Rain Man of movies.
Oh, one way I've heard that put before. Someone else called me the walking internet movie database before, and I'm just like, okay, works for me.
Yeah, so the way this is gonna go is if you are typing into chat or anything during the podcast, we'll probably be able to read it, but we might not be able to respond. So if you have any questions you want to ask us, please wait for the end. We're gonna do like a Q&A segment. Other than that, yeah, just I hope you all enjoy it. So I've already introduced ourselves. I guess before we get into it, have you done anything interesting this last week or recently?
Nothing too
How'd
crazy.
you?
I mean, for people that kind of know me, I pretty much kind of live, maybe not a solitary life, but it seems like anytime anything weird or anything kind of strange happens to just about anybody, it always seems to fall into my lap and stuff like that. But no, this past week, pretty standard, pretty uncrazy and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that's a good way to start this and try to do that. But no, this week was kind of normal.
Just normal. Do you work on any guns this week or anything?
Funny you bring that up. So just to let people know here, I'm also an armorer. I went to school to be a gunsmith and stuff like that as well. I work at a pawn shop right now. It's kind of the fun thing. So one thing I'm in charge of is taking a look, dismantling, and making sure stuff works. Yeah, one of the things I got to see this week was a shotgun that they only made for 2 years by one company, which is the most ass-backwards way I've ever seen to make a shotgun. Let's make a semi-automatic shotgun.
What?
But you don't make it semi-automatic. You have the little charging handle you normally use to pull back and let it go forward. Let's make that the bolt, so that way after you pull it out, you pull it back, and then you slam it forward and lock it back into place. So it's basically a single pull straight back action multi-shot shotgun.
Like bolt action shotgun?
Bolt action straight pull shotgun. It's,
That's weird. That's weird, man.
how about you, man?
Let's see. I had some friends over a friend of the podcast. And we played a little bit of Zelda Twilight Princess, which is one of my favorite Zelda games. And we've been playing through it very slowly for a couple months now. But yeah, we're getting pretty close to finishing it, so I'm excited about that.
Is that the one where he plays a werehog? Oh wait, no, that's Sonic the Hedgehog. No, that one. Is that the one where he plays a werewolf?
Yeah, like well, I guess not really a werewolf, but yeah, you can turn into a wolf and stuff. And if nobody's played it, I highly recommend it. It's one of the more like dark mood Zelda games where a lot of them are more like upbeat and bright and stuff, and this one really makes use of that like blue color spectrum, like blue and gray. So it's really cool. Let's see, what else did I do? I don't know, just aside from working my butt off, it was kind of just a boring week otherwise. Okay, so we'll get into Silent Hill here. I don't know. Have you ever played much of the video game?
I've never actually played a single Silent Hill game. I've seen people play it. I've seen gameplay from it and stuff like that. I've seen more than enough lists of people talking about, oh, it's one of the scariest games of all time and stuff like that. And seeing the gameplay for it and stuff like that, I can understand just kind of just seeing that mood to it and that atmosphere, and kind of seeing how being on the PlayStation 2, just with all the pixelization, it
Mhm.
kind of helps to make everything a little blurrier and crazier. So I can kind of see how that atmosphere is really good in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never played it. Well, I have played a Silent Hill game, but not the original. And I only played like a few minutes. So I think it was at Newton's house. When I was in high school, I think we played one of them, one of the PS2 ones, and I just remembered not understanding what was going on, and everything was just kind of freaky. But yeah, I'm after watching the movie, I'm kind of thinking about getting a copy of the first one for PlayStation One. Um,
I was going to say, kind of freaky and not knowing what's going on, aka the movie in a nutshell.
yeah, the movie was a weird. I don't know. We'll get into it later, but it was my first time seeing the movie, and it was interesting. That's for sure. Definitely interesting. The game, however, that one, I mean, everybody that's played it loves it, I'm sure. It has a lot of good ratings. So it came out for the PS1 in 1999. It was published by Konami, um, and they actually formed Team Silent, like a whole new team to make the game. Um, because of the limitations with the PlayStation 1, and having such a big world, they actually used like fog and darkness to kind of like mask their terrible draw distance. But it ended up working really well, apparently, especially for like a psychological horror game. Um, it was one of the first survival horror games to have the main character he's like an average guy. His name is Harry Mason. Harry Mason, is that right? Yeah. Um,
Is that a play off of Perry Mason?
I have a section in here about how a lot of the characters got their names, and it's like a lot of it's derived from like different literature and stuff. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
get into that. Um, but yeah, you start as Harry, like him and his daughter are driving through a remote area of America when a figure in the road causes them to swerve and crash. Um, so it's like really similar to the starting of the movie. Harry wakes up to find his daughter is missing, and so he walks to the nearby town of Silent Hill in search for his daughter, where he finds a cult performing a ritual to summon the deity they worship. Um, so in the game, this is also a game that has like different endings, and as far having not played the game, I don't know for sure, but most of my research said like five or six endings. I think it's five. But there's five different endings, including one that's just kind of like a joke. Um, they actually had a suggestion box at the office of alternative reasons for the occurrences of the game. So like just different endings, and that's how they got like the joke one. And I think it involves like a UFO. I'm pretty sure I have it written down here.
I know I've heard of that one. I know for the second one, which they used a little. I mean, they used the atmosphere of the first one, but they used a lot of like the interior and like a lot of the imagery from the second one for the movie. I know there's a secret ending in that one where it's literally like a Wizard of Oz kind of thing of like the wizard behind the curtain, and it's a Shiba Inu typing on like a control panel, and then it literally like the ending credits is like this dog head sitting there barking like Bart singing like Jingle Dog or whatever it's called. The theme to Silent Hill. It's like cheese wheels are like rolling past the screen. And I'm not gonna lie, had the movie ended with Sean Bean walking into a closet and there being a Shiba Inu like controlling a computer panel, I was gonna say 5 stars. Academy Award for greatest movie ever, right there.
Oh, that would have made the movie so much better, honestly. Um, so development on the game started in 1996. So Konami wanted a game that would do well in the U.S., which is why it's set in the U.S. But it resulted in this like Hollywood-like atmosphere in the town of Silent Hill. Of course, Silent Hill is a fictional town. It's an interpretation of a small American community based on Western literature and film. So they really took a lot of inspiration from what was that movie you mentioned earlier? Ghosts something?
Oh, Ghost Story.
Ghost Story. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that had a big influence in this. Um, so let's see. The team assigned to make the game hadn't been like successful at all with their previous games, and they were actually intending on quitting Konami. Um, but according to the composer, I'm probably gonna butcher this name, Akira Yamaoka, the developers were unsure on how to really proceed with like their jobs or the making of Silent Hill at all. So the staff and the management both were like starting to lose faith in the game, and like everyone just kind of like wasn't sure like how long if it was even gonna get made or how long it would take or anything. But like Konami, they got a little money hungry, so they really wanted a game to make a profit. So that like at one point I think they were almost gonna axe the project, but they ended up giving Team Silent a lot of creative freedom with the game and just kind of let them do their thing because they weren't sure if it was gonna make money or what. Um,
So it's like a reverse Cyberpunk 2077 then.
yeah, kind of. They're just like, we don't care. Like it's probably not gonna make money. Just do whatever you want. Um, and at the time, there was a lot of like low budget 2D titles being made by Konami. So, like yeah, after a while, like the developers just started like ignoring like Konami's rules and just doing what they wanted anyway, and Konami was just like, yeah, fine. So, um, Konami's initial plan was to make a game that would appeal to players' emotions. So that's kind of why you get the psychological part of Silent Hill. Um, like a lot of I guess it's a lot of like fear of the unknown because like I mean if the movie is any indication how the game was supposed to make you feel, it was just kind of like random, like you don't know what's gonna happen next. um
Surrealism.
yeah, even the plot of the game, like the plot of the movie was extremely vague, the plot of the game was vague, and it did its best to leave like the truth a mystery, because it really wanted players to like reflect to themselves and like try to figure out the story for themselves. Um, the director Kaiichiro Toyama, it was his first time directing a game, but he created a lot of the game's scenarios while the programmer Hiroyuki Owaku wrote like a lot of the riddles and puzzles and stuff for the game. And Toyama was not interested in horror, but was interested in like UFOs and the occult and like David Lynch movies and that sort of thing. So like it ended up kind of working out real well.
That makes all the sense, actually.
Yeah, yeah. That really had a heavy influence on the game.
I never thought of that before. No, the actual from the gameplay I've seen from the first game, it does feel a lot like Japanese Twin Peaks. Like a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. So yeah, they had an artist, Takayoshi Sato, who was making CG models, and he really wanted to become like have a bigger role in the creation of the game. So he pressured the higher ups, and they let him become a character designer. So he was responsible for making like a lot of the cutscenes in the game, which in 1996 making CG cutscenes was a whole big deal, and he did it like by himself. His superior didn't want to fully credit his work, and um, wanted to be assigned as a visual supervisor to keep so it's just like keep check on this guy and like not give him credit. So it's like I don't know, it's just stupid office bull crap. But like to keep it from happening, the artist like volunteered to create all the cutscenes by himself over the course of 2.5 years. He pretty much lived in the office because he had to use about 150 computers every night to render the scenes, and he had to wait for everyone to leave the office in order to do it.
Wow. That's like hearing stories of like the original Jurassic Park
Yeah.
about the rendering farms that ILM had for that, and apparently they had to have it be like 33 degrees in there so that way they could actually run.
Yeah.
And apparently at one point like somebody sent an email and it like shut all the computers down in the office.
Yeah, man, I can't imagine what that would have been like.
Oh.
Like, oh man, just all by yourself, like getting rendering going on 150 computers. God, yeah. So these guys were crazy. Uh, a lot of the creatures and puzzles are references to books. Here we go. Here's what I was talking about. Um, Arthur Doyle's The Lost World.
Oh, Arthur Conan Doyle. Yeah, the guy,
Yeah.
the creator of Sherlock Holmes, for those kids out there that spent more time in literature class than they did in shop class.
I could see that kind of having like an influence as far as like the whole like you're in a place but not in the real world in that place, like kind of like what is it, the Upside Down in Stranger Things or whatever. Let's see, Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
Mm.
Several characters' names reference real life, as Cheryl Mason. Her name is based on actor Cheryl Lee.
I thought you were going to say Cheryl Tate. Or Sharon Tate.
Sharon Tate. Lisa Garland in the game. Her name is based on Judy Garland.
Ooh, Minnesota native.
Michael Kaufman is a combination of Troma Studios producers Michael Hertz and Lloyd Kaufman.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then many other characters' names are references, but like they just got a little obscure for me to write them all down. So sorry if you want to look it up. I think it's on the Wikipedia for the game. So the game debuted in 1998 at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Atlanta, so E3. They presented the game movies and cutscenes, which got a lot of attention from the audience, and it did so well that Konami was persuaded to focus more on marketing and public relations than they like originally planned. Like I said, they wanted to make money and they didn't think it was going to make the money, so they kind of didn't care. But now it has our attention. They later showcased a demo of the game at the European Computer Trade Show in London, which really hyped it up a lot. So then once it released, it received generally positive reviews. It sold over 2 million copies and is now considered the defining title in survival horror games. It earned a place in the American PlayStation's Greatest Hits collection, and later had various adaptations, including a visual novel in 2001, the film in 2006, which we're talking about today, and a reimagining of the game in 2009 called Silent Hill Shattered Memories, not to mention the sequels of the game, Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3. So,
I'd say it's definitely basically left some tracks or left some lineage ahead of itself in terms of games in general. So
yeah, that game was real popular, and a lot of people still like it. So, yeah, let's see here. Do I have anything else? That's all I can think of about the game. I think I had more written down at one point, but I
oh, sure.
did some deleting. But yeah, yeah. What did you find out about the movie, Barry?
Well, for the kind of production of the movie and stuff like that, it was written and directed by a guy named Christophe Gans, who is a French director. He's had his hands in a lot of French cinema. He's worked as a producer. He's worked as kind of like a story editor and stuff like that. He's always had this really sort of... had his finger in kind of like the horror as well as kind of like the sci-fi and fantasy kind of pulses and stuff like that. The movie he did right before he did this one is called Brotherhood of the Wolf, where it's actually about a real-life werewolf story in France, and it has this really kind of surrealistic, dreamlike quality to it. It's a neat one. Don't watch the dubbed version. It's terrible, but the actual original sub film is really, really beautiful and really incredible to watch. After this, in 2014...
Oh, the camera shut up. I thought I turned that feature off.
Uh-oh. Can they still hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
All right. 2014, he actually released the French remake of Lebbi and Elmer. Sorry, guys, my French is a little rusty. Which is basically the remake of the original French black and white telling of Beauty and the Beast. The original black and white film, really gorgeous, really cool. His remake that he did in 2014 is leaps and bounds better than the Disney version, and it's a trippy, just crazy mess. It's incredible to see with Vincent Cavill. I can't remember how to pronounce the guy's last name, but really cool French film like that. He had been wanting to make this game or this movie based off the games since it came out. Actually, he was trying to pitch it to different studios to try to get in there to do it. So it was actually written by him, one of his writing partners that he worked with through a lot of his French French studio productions and stuff like that. And then a guy named Roger Avery, who's an American screenwriter here in the United States. And Roger Avery is known for being originally a good friend and writing partner for the foot fetishist among everybody else, Quentin Tarantino. Avery actually received an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay because he helped to write a lot of Pulp Fiction with Tarantino. He is specifically credited with writing the entire boxing subplot. So because of him, we've got, I spent the better part of the Vietnam War with this watch stuck up my ass. So that's what Roger Avery helped to bring a lot of the Americanization to it and stuff like that. With that, the funny thing is, they couldn't get the movie greenlit with the original script, which was about 90% of what they actually filmed, until they added, out of nowhere, Sean Bean's little subplot that kind of goes nowhere in the entire film, if you really think about it. It basically helps to bring some exposition to it, but at the same time, you're like, what's Sean Bean doing in this?
Yeah, it was like kind of just like random, and he didn't really do anything. I think he was kind of just put in the movie as as a narration device.
Pretty much. I mean, that's what they kind of said, is they used him for that, and then apparently, like, the studio notes said something like, there needs to be at least one male character in this movie. And apparently Gans was pissed when he read that. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? Funnily enough, this is one of only 2 Sean Bean movies I can think of off the top of my head where he doesn't die. The other one is Ronin from 1997, I believe, which is a movie where everybody dies. So, but a lot of with going into the movie, Gans looked at a lot of movies from the past that he wanted to utilize for just kind of the visual interpretation of it. He went off of apparently David Lean, the guy who directed Lawrence of Arabia and Bridge on the River Kwai.
You almost said Lawrence of Arabia.
Well, I mean, yeah, cinematic masterpiece right there. And then also Sergio Leone, the guy who did like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars and stuff like that, which I cannot see with this film like at all.
Yeah, no.
If anything, what this movie feels like to me, this feels like it should have been like Lucio Fulci, the guy who did like Zombie, Nightmare City, and The Beyond. This feels like this should have been like one of his lost films. Because I was kind of joking with you earlier. The score to this movie works in some places, other places, like you were joking, it feels like it's like the prototype for like lo-fi hip-hop beats to study to. I feel like it should have like a goblin score to it. It's almost something like out of Dawn of the Dead, where you have like a creepy, funky sort of like disco edge, like a haunted disco style like synthesizer going on to it with like creepy lyrics going on. But Gans said that he took a lot of inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft, of course, just because sort of that psychological horror aspect to it.
I can see that.
Skip the racism, though, so that's always a good thing to have. Did that. You brought up Ghost Story earlier, which I could really see. Funnily enough, spoiler alert, the main villainess in this turns out to be played by Alice Creed, a.k.a. the Borg Queen from First Contact, and also was the kind of the titular ghost in Ghost Story, which fits quite well on that. If you ever need a scary yet somewhat sexy-looking gal, go with Alex Creed. With that, too, some of the other sources that he kind of cited for his inspiration for it were Clive Barker and David Cronenberg.
I can see the Cronenberg for sure.
Cronenberg is kind of with that sort of like taking you out of your normal headspace and suddenly transporting you to sort of like a fantastical element. I can really see what the Clive Barker aspect to it, because Barker, who's the guy who created like Hellraiser, and Candyman, I should say, with the new movie coming out. He has like this weird hard-on for like the flesh and like like how like human bodies like made of meat. When you see the visuals in this, you can really see that. Well, let's put it this way: he is the flesh and meat to what Tarantino is with feet, and then Stephen King is to psychics, Maine, and preteen orgies. So you can really kind of see that kind of influence right there. But no, I mean, when you look at just kind of the pedigree behind the film, you can really see a lot of the surrealism that comes from a lot of French New Wave cinema and stuff like that was kind of coming through in the 2000s like that, with movies like High Tension, what's the name of the movie? Inside and stuff like that. You can kind of see that horror extreme coming through, but also kind of like the art house pedigree that Gans had kind of come from with this kind of the surrealistic visuals in this. I was kind of we were talking earlier when I was telling Lebbi here that this is kind of the perfect video game movie. Not because, hey, sweetie, not because of it's a good interpretation of the game, but it's kind of the closest I've come to with seeing like a video game put on screen. It kind of travels from one point to another, and it basically the story tells itself via you watching it, kind of like with you playing it. So there's not a lot of like actual exposition dumps that happened before. So it just kind of it plays itself out, and you're kind of learning along with everybody along the way.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like setup or plot, really. It's just kind of like, okay, now this is happening. And you kind of have to like deduce for yourself like what's really going on.
Ooh, Christoph Gans directing the Half-Life movie. Imagine that, because that's a game that, you know, it takes you through it, and you're literally learning what's happening along with the character, with Gordon Freeman.
I mean, I love Half-Life, but that sounds like a terrible idea.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd watch it, though. I guess we would have to for the podcast.
Ugh, you don't want to know some of the stuff this guy's dragged up from the internet for me to watch with him.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have some interesting episodes for you guys.
I told him that we're not going to do a Yuba Bowl month. I can only do Yuba Bowl in like quarter month spurts and stuff like that, because no.
Yeah, I don't think I've downloaded the. Did they even make the Rampage movie, or was that a fever dream?
Rampage, you mean the Dwayne the Rock?
Oh yeah,
movie?
that's right. Yeah, they totally did.
Because no, Yuba Bowl made a Rampage movie, and nothing to do with the game, but it was basically Postal 2.0. So.
Oh God, yeah, I don't. We're gonna have to eventually watch all these terrible movies just to talk with you guys about it.
Postal. I just say that we just do Postal as a live show, and we just get drunk. That's the only way I can see it for that movie.
Hey, I'm down. I'm down.
Ugh.
Oh yeah. Okay, so like, yeah, I guess the movie. What really happened? Like, it started out and they were like one place, like nowhere near Silent Hill. Then all of a sudden they're like, I'm driving to Silent Hill. I guess to like bring the daughter back to the town she was adopted from or something.
And then Sean Bean chasing after her, going, "No, our daughter needs psychological help. She doesn't need to go and relive her trauma in some freaky, you know, back-assward town in the middle of nowhere."
Yeah, it was really weird. It was just like kind of like things just started happening, and you're like, "Oh, I think that they're like this is what's going on," and then it confirms it later. So it was kind of weird. Yeah, and then like just like the game, they crash. She wakes up, the kid's gone. She goes looking for her in Silent Hill, and then just like, I think within like 15 minutes, like weird shit starts happening. So like the movie really didn't waste any time. It just got right to the point. Just like, hey, demon babies are chasing you.
Or my personal favorite, all of a sudden, Laurie Holden from The Walking Dead gets to finally pull her Sig pistol out. All of a sudden, it's just like, oh, there's the Cronenberg influence. Monster with a chest vagina. More of a chest anus, but yeah.
Yeah, a hole's a hole, you know.
Any port in a storm, literally.
Yeah, and then there's like a cop that was like trying to pull her over, like also ended up in the town, and like I don't know. So they're going through like looking for the daughter and killing monsters and shit, and like it's just kind of like weird things happening one after the other. Nothing was really memorable there until Pyramid Head showed up.
Mm-hmm. The best part of the movie.
Yep. Pyramid Head was awesome. Like, probably the only like good parts in the movie were Pyramid Head.
I'd say just to actually realize a video game character that is really stylized and iconic, to actually have him on screen like that is probably one of the best representations I've seen like that. I mean, as good as what they did for, like, say, like the Sonic movie of actually incorporating like a realistic looking Sonic compared to the original test footage or trailer,
Wait,
or
was
oh no, did we
radio's frozen?
All right. Well, he's fixing that, or kind of like how with the new Mortal Kombat, with a lot of the designs they did of incorporating, say, like a more realistic looking Scorpion or Sub-Zero and stuff like that. I gotta say that the way that they put Pyramid Head on screen there is definitely, from screen to screen kind of thing, probably one of the best ways I've ever seen them kind of incorporate a character like that.
Yeah, I really liked him. And then here, let me just fix this.
While he's working on that, then I'll break this out too. One thing that everybody likes to bring up with the movie is that the images of it, as well as the design of the town, funnily enough, they said it in West Virginia, is that it's actually inspired by a town called Centralia, Pennsylvania, which everybody likes to talk to about how it has the coal mine that's been burning for the better part of 50 years now. I actually used to live by there when I was going to school out in Pennsylvania, and I actually got to visit there. And I can tell you right now, it looks like your average, like, 4th Street town that you've ever been to, in the backwoods of nowhere. It's just that there's, like, nobody there. And then occasionally you'll see, like, a little bit of smoke coming out of the ground, and it's just all kind of weeds and cracked up and everything. So, yeah, it's a little spooky, but at the same time, I'm more afraid of Bram Pie Day than I am of anything else. So.
Yeah, the town really reminded me of like a lot of places nearby where we grew up.
Like I was joking, it's just like, oh no, the next town over is called Brams, which actually the city of Silent Hill reminds me so much of the city of Bram, actually. So.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty good, and like, so I guess like the part where they're like making it inside like the church as like a safe haven, Pyramid Head like picks up that chick and just like grabs the skin on her chest, twists it, and rips off her like all of her skin at once.
That was definitely a very Clive Barker-y thing there.
That was badass.
Pinhead versus Pyramid Head. I mean, it kind of works for for that right there.
I guess Pinhead, I'd say Pinhead might have more like psychological horror to like the character more than Pyramid Head
he might have a little more powers to him, but then again, Pyramid Head is trans-dimensional and stuff like that. So.
Oh, yeah, I suppose he's like a literal demon.
Either way, Death Battle, get on that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, anyway, then they get in this church. They find out the people in the church are like a crazy cult that like burn people for being witches.
Someone should have just dished out the Kool-Aid like decades ago, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, and like it was kind of a long movie, and they found a way to like do a lot of things to accomplish a simple task. So like the ending was like pretty long, where you're just like, oh my god, get it over with, like save the little girl already. But yeah, like some people burn alive, and then like the demon or like the witch girl like comes up from the middle of the church, and there's like a weird tentacle barbed wire
which I've been trying to figure out how to pronounce this for like 3 days. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce this for like the better part of my life, but the inspiration from that came from the weirdest place possible, of like this barbed wire that's like reaching around and like going through people and up through them. It's actually, and Dan said this, it was inspired by, if you think his Japanese pronunciations are bad, wait till you're mine. Urutsu Sukedoji? Sukedoji, I believe. Also known as here in the States, Legend of the Overfiend, which I've had the delight of seeing and is by far the most fucked up hentai film I've ever seen.
Urotsu Kidoji? Wow, that's a tough one to say.
Legend of the Overfiend.
Yeah, so, crazy barbed wire tentacle lady helps save the day, and the movie ends with the mom and the daughter driving back to their house, and the dad's in the same house, but they can't see each other because they're in different dimensions.
But they can feel each other.
They can feel each other. Spooky.
You can't tell we originally planned this to be the Halloween episode, which, timing.
Yeah, this was intended to be done like the week before Halloween or even the week of Halloween, but some things came up with both of us, so we're a little late to the party, but I'm glad to get this movie out of the way. I think it was a good first episode.
Oh, definitely. No, it's got the clickbaity potential of everybody going, ooh, Silent Hill. But at the same time, it also gives us a lot of fodder to talk about. We actually have a interesting actual presentation and an interesting piece to talk about in terms of both the game as well as the the film put on screen.
Yeah, and I wanted to do our first movie. I wanted it to be something that wasn't completely awful, you know? like I love sitting through bad movies, but like I don't know if I was ready to sit through the first Mario movie again just yet, you know?
I've got a lot to talk about there, but at the same time, yeah, we want to have a good 50-50 balance. It's not like we're going to talk about, like, say, the Double Dragon, two dudes, and then talk about the movie version where it's just like,
Yeah, we're gonna figure out another interesting movie to talk about next week. We're definitely doing an episode next week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll pencil that one in. We promise it's not going to be Tekken.
Yeah.
Did they do a DOA movie?
Yeah, they did. They did a Dead or Alive movie. Yep, it's on our list.
Oh boy. Does it at least involve a little bit of beach volleyball?
Probably. Well, probably. It's Dead or Alive.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see what.
Oh no.
I got a short list here.
Oh god. Teasers to come. Teasers of attractions to come, folks.
Yeah, so just some of the movies that I have on our list to potentially do. We want a little sneak peek. Obviously, the Mario movie, The Wizard, which isn't a movie adaptation of a game, but it is about games, so we could potentially do that one, maybe.
Hey, Fred Savage, Christian Slater, Bo Bridges, and little Tobey Maguire. Where can we go wrong?
I mean, and if anything, we could make that one about the Nintendo World Championship.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way of spinning it.
So then there's Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
Oh boy. That was a Thanksgiving where I was all alone with my cousin in the theater.
Which we might be able to skip that one. Since I mean, it is in the Final Fantasy universe, but there's really not a game associated with it. But we're definitely gonna do Advent Children and Kingsglaive, which is the Final Fantasy 15 movie. And then we have Tomb Raider. We could probably do
all three of them.
Any of the three or all three. Of course, like the Resident Evil movies, the Mortal Kombat movies. I do have the new Monster Hunter movie on the list. We're gonna have to watch it eventually. I don't know.
The IPA up to my veins at that point.
And then Sonic movie, Detective Pikachu. There's a Need for Speed movie.
Oh yeah, isn't that the one starring Jesse Pinkman? Aaron Paul?
Was that Aaron Paul? Oh yeah, that was Aaron Paul. I always get Aaron Paul and
Paul Walker?
No, and the guy that played Goku in the Dragon Ball Z movie.
Oh god, what is his name?
I can't remember, but I always get them mixed up for some reason.
No, no, that's not gonna be the April Fool's Day episode.
We're not doing Dragon Ball Z. No way. I think Street Fighter's on the list here. Yep, Max Payne, Blood Rain, House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark.
How can you go from the Street Fighter movie to all of a sudden just naming the three worst films I've ever seen?
Max Payne, Blood Rain, and House of the Dead?
Oh, God.
Yeah, we got the Rampage movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is on here. The Warcraft movie is on here. That'll probably be a long episode. That movie was actually good.
Yeah, I mean, when you hire David Bowie's son to direct it, Duncan Jones, how could it be?
Yeah, and then there's the Hitman movies, the Prince of Persia movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, boy.
The Ratchet and Clank movie.
To go back to the Prince of Persia movie for a second, there, quote my favorite We Hate Movies, the Buddy Brigade movie.
Buddy Brigade?
Buddy Brigade.
What's that?
I'll explain later.
Oh, God. Yeah, Tekken is on here.
Oh, no.
So is the Assassin's Creed movie, Dead or Alive, and this might be the worst one, Doom.
Annihilation or the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
Well, I have Annihilation downloaded.
Let's put it this way. When you make the 04, is it 04 or 05 movie, I think. We'll split the difference. When you make the 05 movie look like goddamn aliens in comparison, you know you did something.
Yeah, Annihilation, I think I watched like a half an hour of that, and I was like, no.
Let's put it this way. We're going to watch that one after my trip back to Michigan.
Yeah, obviously that one's to come. I want to do like a more upbeat, I think, fun one after Silent Hill. So we'll announce that soon. We're also gonna now that we have an episode in the bag, we're going to be putting this on as many podcast sites as we can. So, I mean, definitely like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, things like that. But that'll probably come tomorrow. I'm going to try to scramble and get that up tonight, but we'll see.
I guess one thing we could kind of add to this is, so in your mind, what do you think it would take if down the line they're going to try to make do another attempt at Silent Hill? In your opinion, what would be the best approach to doing it?
Oh, man. Um,
Because I know what they would probably try to do, and it would just be terrible. But at the same time, and I'll say what that is. But in your opinion, what do you think the best way to try to the best approach to this?
um, Man, I almost want to say kind of going that like self-aware campy-ish route, like Cabin in the Woods. I think would be a great fit for Silent Hill just because there's so many different parts of like the universe and lore, and I mean that's a lot to fit into an hour and 45-minute movie like we just watched. And it was just kind of like
So I can
we want to put the things from the game in there, but we don't have enough time, so just here it is, here it is.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Maybe not quite a parody level, but almost
Yeah.
like sort of. I mean, the kind of the whole point of the games, at least with the second one onwards, they talked about is sort of like a psychoanalyzation of trauma. I kind of like that, like a psychoanalyzation of horror, of like the trauma that they portray in the game, and maybe the character
Yeah.
is not exactly like they're onto it or whatnot, but. Oh dear God! No, some studio executive is going to do this, and I go, "We need to put the Scooby Gang in fucking Silent Hill." It's like Scoob, it's Pyramid Head.
Like they did with Supernatural.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah, that
what?
would be good.
Yeah, what I'm afraid of that they're going to try to do though is, I mean, don't get me wrong, they've been really successful with this model, and I really like what they did with the Invisible Man. I really hope they don't try to come at this with the Blumhouse model, with like the really, like $1 million to $10 million budget, like really simple concept, lo-fi kind of horror film like that. I really hope they don't go with that thing, because kind of the whole, other than the trauma aspect, the one big draw to the Silent Hill films is just or the games I should say, is just kind of that messed up sort of universe to it, where it has this kind of like a dirty, grungy, as we were joking, the first thing I do as soon as I got out of Silent Hill is get myself a tetanus shot and whatever booster I'd need for gonorrhea. So,
Some penicillin.
just something like that. So you do need enough of a budget to kind of recreate that sort of atmosphere and aesthetic to it. And I kind of made a joke about this earlier, but what I would actually kind of dig is if they did like a mini series on this. So almost kind of like get Ryan Murphy and I forget his writing partner for like American Horror Story, American Crime Story. I think those guys could actually bring to the table like a really interesting look. Because part of the American Horror Story series, if any folks have kind of seen that, is just kind of adapting like famous tropes in horror films, as well as kind of like the underlying like sort of ugliness of America, stuff like that. Same with like an American Crime Story. You kind of add that to it of sort of like a messed up, fucked up American town. Couple that with somebody who's got like messed up trauma in their past and stuff like that. I think that'd be an interesting way of trying to approach that.
Yeah, I think so too. And speaking of like a model like that, I do think that this would be well adapted into a series more than just another movie. Just like I was talking about, there's so much that a game has. To condense it down to an hour and 45 minutes is really pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a series would do a lot better, for sure.
Well, like we were talking about with that petition they've been having for
Oh, the anime.
for trying to do like an anime or something like that. I was joking. I'm like, well, if you really need someone good to do it, you get Hayao Miyazaki to do it. That guy only bitches about his productions on his films, about how it's always, it is pain, it is, discomfort on film is what I pour into my films. Well, he always has like a protagonist or that's either like a strong, independent female or male character fighting through, like sort of fantastical universes. Well, here you can let him let loose and put his actual pain and torment on screen.
Yeah, that would be a really weird.
My Neighbor Totoro with freaking tentacles, and My Neighbor Totoro with a big pyramid head on him.
Oh man, yeah, that would be interesting. But I would definitely watch the anime for
Mhm.
sure. Like if it was anything, like if they got the like the people that did the Castlevania anime.
Ooh, yeah, not kind of the same style to it.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe get Yoshiaki Kawajiri in there too with what he did with like say like Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, and
Mhm.
Wicked City and stuff like that. Really add
Oh
kind of a
man,
dark edge
Wicked
to it.
City. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a good match. Yeah, for sure. So I guess overall, Barry, what was this movie, a bop or a flop?
I'm not gonna call it a flop. To call it a flop, which all the other critics apparently did back in 2006 on
Yeah.
this, which they hated this. I'm gonna call it a bop. In terms of visual storytelling, I mean, this is a movie. It didn't need any dialogue to know exactly what was going on and what was
Yeah.
happening. Like it visually, it was incredible to see. If we would have just had this movie on mute and sat here the entire time,
We
I think
would have figured it out.
we would have
Yeah.
figured it out. We would have had a great time. I think what makes it kind of a flop in a way is the dialogue and just kind of how it, in some ways, it kind of over explains itself a little bit. I think in the end, I would definitely call this a bop, and I'd call it definitely a recommendation just for if you want to see a successfully made video game movie on screen. It's not a successful movie, but it's a successful in that it feels like storytelling through a video game put to film.
Yeah, I can see that. I might lean the other way. I mean, it's kind of somewhere in the middle, but I'm leaning more towards flop. Um, as far as video game movies go, it's definitely one of the better ones. If you're looking for something spooky to watch and you're nostalgic for Silent Hill, watch it. But
It's not House of the Dead, that's for sure.
I don't know if I'm going to be watching this movie anytime soon. Uh, it was okay. It was okay. But I think it's a flop. I think it's a flop. Um, let's see. I don't know if anyone wants to stick around for our Q&A, but I don't have any outro music or animation actually exported and ready yet. Speaking of animations, my starting soon animation also needs to be reworked a little bit. My podcast PC is a little old, and it had some trouble rendering that. So, um,
Well, better your computer than mine because, dear God, I'm still running a what is that? A HP like ProBook from like
NV or
2018, and I think
something.
that thing has like 4 gigabits of RAM on it. So it's like, ooh.
So what we're gonna do is I'm going to get myself a beer, real quick. Do you want another beer?
I'll take one.
While I'm doing that, you guys, we're gonna start interacting with you guys and answering questions and talking and chatting and stuff. So we're gonna consider the podcast officially over, but we're still